Hello, my YouTube friends. So let's talk about why I'm buying Tesla today before earnings, along with Boeing and even UPS, which had earnings earlier today, that I might add on to that position. Good morning. My name is Adam Kahn, and this is Investing with Adam K. I hope you're all doing well. So I'm going to get right into it today based on what somebody else had suggested, and we'll talk about other stuff later on. Why am I buying Tesla today before the earnings? Now, I was in a bit of a rush to get this out. I just got back from my walk, so forgive unshaven, hair mess, everything else. I get a little embarrassed by that. That being said, I'm buying it because the sentiment is so negative. That's really the reason why. I think Tesla is one of the great companies out there. It's not in the top holdings that I have. If you guys want to know, my top holdings are Meta, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Starbucks, Exxon Mobil, and actually Nextera Energy Partners, which I'll mention a little about in the video today as well. Those are my top holdings. And I think Tesla fits into that category of companies that really could be the great ones that I want to own. Now, maybe the stock goes lower and maybe it even goes significantly lower, but there has been so much bad news on Tesla. It's hard to imagine what else could come out that expects it to get worse. And to be honest, the news in China is pretty bad to where I don't even know that they should be operating in China. They lowered their price and their competitor BYD lowered their prices to match. And I think the problem is you're competing against a company that has a different goal in mind and they're not as concerned about earnings. So in time, they really could just price you out of the market and they actually sell more cars. I think it's a mistake a lot of times when American companies go into China thinking they can compete because it's not a fair playing field. There's so many things I love about Tesla. The reality is their estimated earnings have dropped significantly. They keep cutting the prices. There's issues surrounding Elon Musk and his compensation plan, along with the usual problems of Elon Musk. And there's so many things going on that the negative information is legitimately negative. But here's what I love about the company. I love that they're direct to consumer. I think that the GMs, which had great earnings, and the Fords and Stellantis and the like are going to have a tough time in the future getting around that. It doesn't allow them to compete quite the same way. The fact that Tesla doesn't have middleman with the dealerships, essentially franchises or whatever you want to think of them as, and then they do their own repairs. They have their own parts. If you use something other than Tesla parts, you void the warranty. You hurt your ability to insure the car. And now Tesla even insures the cars as well, which I tend to think other car companies might start looking into. And then you add into it, they own the charging stations, and other car companies are so far behind in that they're working deals to be able to use the charging stations as well. So you have Tesla, that's Tesla. They are also the equivalent of Exxon Mobil for their cars in particular. They do all the repairs, they sell, they pay the staff salary plus bonus, so they're not on a commission schedule. The price is the price, which people love. And I got to tell you, the reason we have two of them is I find they're the best deal out there when I go looking for a car. They drive great, they're really easy to use. And then the interesting thing is the other thing that they do is they have a subscription model, which is really interesting. Even me, who's the cheapest guy in the world and rarely signs up for anything, I signed up for the thing that comes in with Slack radio. I forget what they call it, but I really did it mainly for the radio. It gets a bunch of other things with it that I could care less about. I think it's their internet or whatever they call it. But that's $100 a year that, well, that doesn't sound like a lot. How many people are signing up for it? And then if you want autonomous driving, you can pay monthly for that too. That's not something I care about. They actually offered it for free as a test case, and I find I don't even use it. And the other thing is with this autonomous driving, that could give them an ability to compete with a company like Uber going forward, where if they're making cars that can drive themselves, they can do deliveries, they can do cabs, they can do all sorts of stuff. And they're the actual producers of the car versus the way that Uber's set up. So there's really interesting dynamics in terms of how the company can grow. If you look at them just as a car company, even over forward earnings, I think they're a little overpriced even here where I'm picking it up. But it is a company I want to own. And if I'm going to name off the companies that I think are the best 6 or 8 companies in the world, Tesla fits in that category. So it's very hard for me not to buy it. The reality is, I recently added Apple back into my portfolio because of that. I think they're super overpriced, but at the same time, I still want to own the best companies and put it in my safe deposit box and not pay so much attention to if I think it's overpriced or not, because there are plenty of times, like Costco, where they're overpriced and they just go and go and go. So I don't want to get left in the dust. I didn't buy so much that it's going to be a major deal, but I did add on to Tesla today and bought some yesterday in advance of the earnings that we're going to see later today. I bought Boeing for the same reason, which is the sentiment is so bad that it's hard to imagine things get worse. Now, keep in mind, none of this is financial advice. Please do not make trades based on the information I'm sharing. This is just what works for me. You need to do your own research and what works for you. And I'm just some guy on YouTube. And you know what's going. Oh, look at the hummingbird. I hope you guys saw it. What goes on in my life and the decisions I make are not what fits you. Everything for investing has to be very personalized. So I'm just sharing the stuff. I hope you guys find enjoyment in it. If you do, please hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, share it with other people, and then we'll get into Boeing, which is the same thing. I mean, the funny thing is, the last news was that the CEO's been using the private jets for his own personal use. Gee, what a shocker. While it may not be appropriate, and maybe he should have been reporting it, maybe this, maybe that. I mean, it really doesn't come as a big surprise. I'm not really sure why that pushed the stock lower. But Boeing's another company that I probably don't think it's the best in the world. They're constantly screwing things up. Forgive me the way I phrase it, but they're always, their management never seems to just get things running and going really well. There always seems to be something that drags them back down. At the same time, they really are a great company, and I don't think they're going out of business anytime soon. And they have earnings, and similarly, their earnings have dropped dramatically, but I want to buy stocks when they're on discount. And when bad news is coming out, things are on discount. Boeing right now is discounted, in my opinion. Maybe it goes lower, but my goal with Boeing, so you guys know, is this is not something I am putting in the safe deposit box that I plan to never touch again. What I hope is the bad news passes, and anytime in the next 3 months to 2 years, the stock is performed and it's back higher, and either I'll consider getting out of it and looking for something else that looks discounted, or I'll sell calls against it that are pretty tight to collect premium or something. I won't just leave it in the vault forever, because it isn't one of the companies that, in my mind, is a forever type of company. Similarly is UPS. They had some bad news, but the funny thing is, with UPS, every time I heard the bad news, it wasn't really bad news. You know, I feel bad for people when they lose their job, but if I'm looking for investments, if a company is letting go of employees, well, their earnings are probably going to go up. It means they're focusing on the bottom line, which is what you want as an investor. It kept pushing UPS below $150 a share. Their earnings last quarter weren't so wonderful. It's easy to say it today because they had good earnings. Actually, their revenue was down, but their profits were up, which is exactly my point. They're tightening their belt. They're paying better attention to profits. That's what you want out of a company. And long term, UPS is a great company that might be one that I would put in the safe deposit box. Either way, I started picking some up. I'm glad that it had good earnings today. I think anywhere around here is still a good buy, and I hope it continues over the next 6 months or a year. Similar to Boeing, I don't know that I plan to own it forever, but it is a company that maybe I change my mind. And what I actually did, for those of you who were paying attention and might have been on the trade with Target, is I sold out of most of my Target to put it into the Boeing and the UPS trade, because I saw that as an opportunity. And while I still think Target is a great company and could continue higher from here, it had such a great run, and it is not one that I put in the category of the Apples and Microsofts and Metas. So it's one of those that I don't mind letting go of in order to put on something else that I think is discounted. So Nextera Energy Partners, the only reason I'm going to mention it, and it's not going to be counted in the title, is one of the three stocks I talked about today. Those really are just the Tesla, Boeing, and UPS. But they came out with earnings today and again reiterated the same thing they've been doing. The stocks really traded in the same range, but I wouldn't normally include it in one of my top 6, 8, 10 holdings. I just overbought it. So if you guys are listening and you've been watching me talk about Nextera Energy Partners, when I say, you need to do your own research, it's things like this that for sure I've taken on too much risk buying too much of that company. I just like the story, and I tend to take on more risk than I suggest others do. If somebody was curious and wanted me to lay out a really good portfolio, I'm happy to try to lay out the top 10 or 20 stocks and how I would set it up. But Nextera Energy Partners, as great as it's been, it's not something I would really normally suggest somebody put in their top eight stocks or put in the most amount of money. I just love the company, and the reality is they're paying like a 12 or 13% dividend. They're still supposed to grow that somewhere between 5 and 8% going forward. Uh, I think if that comes to fruition and the stock continues to perform, you're going to get some price appreciation as well. The stock used to be an $80 stock, and it's still trading for under 30 last that I checked. So if it's able to pay those dividends and continue to grow them, what a great position to have on. Now, again, I wouldn't overbuy it, but it might be something that somebody could add a little bit if they were interested. So again, do me a favor, thumbs up, like, subscribe, make comments, tell me the companies you love. Are there any trades that you're putting on? I'd be curious what you see as cheap right now. Also, like somebody asked me earlier, or they texted about would I be buying Meta or some of these others before earnings? The reality is those are my largest positions. Earnings, no earnings, it's not like I make any changes to the position. I might buy 2, 3, 4 shares just to have fun and take a gamble on it, but it's not like I'm really delving into them before the earnings. I did want to talk about Tesla because I've seen it fall so much that I got a little anxious and wanted to make sure I had it. Also, I'm going to try to finish up right now because my internet speed has been super slow, and I really want to get this out before the earnings so that people can see the timeline and everything. Have a great day. Thumbs up. Enjoy your day. I hope it's as beautiful where you are, where it is for me.